initially you're thinking, what I need in a spouse is all of these checklists. Well, really, what I think is that God has, this specific person that's on their own path, and then you're on your own path. And honestly, your two paths can look totally different on the outside, but it can work so well together as a couple. And it'll look very different on surface level, but me and Sarah's paths and trajectory of what our vision is for our individual lives are just fine, that they're individualized because we also are united in this relationship goal, relationship vision to have a happy family, to have a great marriage, to have, phenomenal children, to have a happy cat and dog,
Come on, phenomenal children and a happy cat and dog.
Where we have this vision for our relationship and how our marriage should be. And we're working on that every day, but we're also working on each of our own individual visions for our lives and where we know God has called us to be.
Hi, everybody. Lee Scott here. Thank you for watching and or listening to this week's episode of Leading with Lee, where we talk about life, leadership, and legacy, and we want to help you discover the leader within you. Before I share about the guest that I have today, if you have not done it yet, subscribe to Leading with Lee on YouTube and all podcasting platforms. I'm super excited because I have some of my friends on the podcast and vlog today. Please welcome Angus and Sarah Martin. Hey, y'all.
Hey.
Hi.
Thanks for having us, Lee.
Yeah. I'm so glad that you said yes and were willing to come on and have this conversation about relationships and doing work together. I'm super excited for people to hear your story and hear about what you all do. So with that being said, could you all just share a little bit about your work and just your lives and what you do?
Yeah, sure. So we live here in Tulsa, Oklahoma. We have a couple of different businesses. We actually just sold our private practice counseling company, and so we had I know. So we just closed about 2 or 3 weeks ago, merging with a large national company called Lifestance Health, and so we sold it. Had about 68 employees there at Crossroads, and then we also have a farm up in North Tulsa, and so we grow roughly about 240,000 heads of lettuce a year.
Wow.
Get that back to our community right now, and then we also sell to like Walmart, Oasis, AWG, Kroger, Supermercado, stuff like that. Then we also have a real estate company called Sage Realty, and Sage, we have rental properties along with some commercial properties here in Tulsa, and have a couple of million in real estate. So it's fun. So
it's great. It's great.
Yeah, you're busy.
Yeah. I know. Based on our conversations, you have explained to me how busy you are even before we start recording. So I just want to talk about your origin story. Like, Angus, I've known you 7 years now almost?
Yeah, at least. Yeah.
7 or 8. Yes, about like 7 or 8 years, which is crazy now that I think about it. But we've known each other a very, very long time. And it seemed like Sarah has always been there, but I know that there was, I've known you long enough to know that there've been, things before, but like, talk to me about you all's story. Like how did you all meet, and how did you all get to this point? And so kind of share about that. And I want to hear Sarah's perspective because I don't really, Angus, you can hold on that. I want to hear Sarah.
There was nothing before Sarah. It was my life was nothing before.
You better speak the truth, brother.
No, you got around, but
oh no.
Well, this is going great. Thanks for having us on, Lee.
Oh my gosh, Sarah.
So we both went to ORU at the same time, but we actually didn't really even run across each other's paths at ORU. But we both were waiters and waitresses at Carrabba's here in Tulsa. and he had just started ORU and I'd been working there, and we kind of got to know each other a little bit, just coworkers for about a year. Didn't really talk a whole lot, but after about a year, it was at that point he finally started to get interested, and that's when I left for a month to be in Michigan. Literally the night before I left is when he finally was like, huh. I was like, okay, well, good timing. I'll be in Michigan for 5 weeks. But
yeah.
It was good because it kind of gave us a chance just to get to know each other and text and that kind of thing. And from there, we kind of had our ups and downs dating for 2-3 years before we got engaged. And we've been married now, just hit 4 years.
That's so crazy to me. It's so wild to me. Like, that's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's crazy been that long, and like we've seen that process of you all growing together and getting to this point. Now I want to hear your version of the story, Angus, since there is a version.
I mean, that's basically the same version as, we met at Carrabba's, and then we started dating, and while we were dating, basically, even at that stage, I was starting kind of my first business, and Sarah actually recommended me to like kind of our main client, which was Crossroads Counseling, ironically. And then that's how Sarah actually got me the job that got us into being shareholders at the main company that we just sold. So everything basically rests on Sarah. So.
For the win, Sarah. You have been the real MVP throughout this whole situation.
It's more like this company needs a lot of help, and I can't keep this together myself. So
yeah.
Surprisingly, I could, which didn't make sense to me.
Well, I mean, as you know to be true, Angus, like your capacity for certain things has grown by virtue of you getting the opportunity to do the things you've done, right? Like you've always had so much capacity, and I'm saying this as your friend, like you have always had a significant amount of bandwidth to grow and learn. And so I think you needed to be put in a situation where that was challenged or pushed, right? And so by you working with Sarah, because Sarah was the best Jason kid in the game, she gave you the best assist. She helped you set up a situation where that could be grown in you. So like, I think that's really awesome and incredible that like, even in seeing you all's story, it pushed obviously you, Angus, into things that you were really passionate about or actually realized that you had just a aptitude for. And by virtue of that, it created this moment where you both were growing, you both continue to move forward and getting to do the things that you enjoy, right? And so I think that's really awesome and amazing. So moving on a little bit, you obviously work together in the business. Now, wait, how long were you all at Crossroads working together?
Basically the whole time. I think I started maybe 4 or 5 months before you came on.
Yeah, and we had the company for 5 years. So we've been together for 5 to 6 years, and then we, started, multiple companies together too, and actively work with each other in at least 3 now. So
yeah.
So.
Now that's interesting. Like a lot of people in their relationships, they don't find that like they're like the entirety of your relationship has been built on your ability to work together, which is such an interesting thing. Now that I think about it and I realize it, like that's very fascinating. I think that that's something that, I mean, it took time. Like kind of talk to me about like, how are you navigating? Like you all are married. So you've been married for 4 years, which is insane to me. Lord have mercy. It went by quick. You've been married for 4 years and you see each other every day, like at work. You see each other every day and you're engaging with each other about business things. You're engaging with each other about things that needs to happen at your businesses, but y'all have to drive home together. How are you navigating business Angus and Sarah with married Angus and Sarah?
Yeah. I think communication is probably the most crucial thing that we're both very, very good at communicating, and, the kind of the thing that I always say and always give the example of is we have, work Angus and work Sarah, and then we have husband Angus and, not husband Sarah, but wife Sarah, and with that, we're very good about, basically, hey, like actually tonight, I already know like one thing that we have to get done. And it's kind of like, hey, we have to get this done and this report sent in to our attorney by tomorrow, kind of no matter what. And then it's like, work Angus, that's what I need. Husband Angus, man, your boss really sucks. Why is he making you work this late? And and I think it's just like we separate it pretty well and say, hey, this is when we need to show up to work because these are the goals that we have and that we need to attain. And these are goals that we have as a couple, and then also goals that we have as as coworkers. I know for me too, especially with Sarah at Crossroads and even Sarah at the farm too, is like I have full trust that she's doing everything and doing everything really well. I know she has that same trust in me. So we aren't really like working with each other as far as like, ironically at Crossroads, I'm her boss, but then at the farm, she's my boss. And so we like transition back and forth between that. And knowing that like at the farm, she's really directing me and telling me what to do. And then at Crossroads, I say I'm directing and telling her what to do, but not really, because she knows what to do and does it well. So
it's good.
Yeah, I was gonna say the same thing, just trust. And I mean, we don't micromanage or really worry about the other person, what they're doing every day. It's more just like, hey, what did you do today? What were kind of your big things you worked on? And I mean, we both just kind of keep to what we're doing and catch each other up at the end of the day. Or if we had a rough patch or, needed advice in an area, then we can go to each other for that too. So it's really cool to kind of have both.
Yeah. And ironically, you would think that since we work together so much and have so many businesses together that we would come home at the end of the day and not do the like, hey, what'd you do today? Conversation because we see each other. But actually every single day, whenever we come home, we spend about 30 minutes to an hour just saying, hey, this is what I work.
Wow.
This is
it's mostly just him telling me about all of this.
Oh yeah.
Expose him, Sarah.
Well, nothing else my wife lets me,
it's our different level of capacities, but
but we sit there and we actually talk with each other and say this is what we did during the day. I think that also keeps us accountable business wise too. We're we both know that we're actively working during the day, and we never felt like, I've never felt like Sarah wasn't doing something to contribute, and I don't think she's ever felt that about me.
No.
That's great. That's great. Oh gosh. But no, that's great. I think that's helpful because like I think some people, and I mean it brings up another question for me for you all as it relates to that, because was there a conversation that you all had going into marriage that like, hey, this is, or better way to ask it, did you foresee this being the nature of your marriage? Like, did you all have conversations about what that would look like? Or is just something that just kind of naturally happened and you all just kind of evolved into that?
I mean, like we said, we worked together at Crossroads too, even before we were married, and just stayed. So that kind of helped. We both knew we had really similar kind of work ethics and drives. We're both really self-motivated, which helps. It's not like we're dragging the other person out of bed. Well, maybe me a little bit. we're
that's honest.
Stuff done, So I mean, we're not going to let deadlines slip or anything like that. So I mean, that helps. I know a lot of couples I've talked to wouldn't be able to do that just because they're polar opposites when it comes to how they work. So that's very, very much helped. I don't know if we had a specific conversation.
I mean, we'd never had one before we got married. I mean, really the only conversations that we have like in marriage are just, we, well, you can ask anybody in our friend group, you included, it's like, hey, on the weekends, like that's me and Sarah. Like
Yeah.
weekdays,
Yeah.
it's pretty much work, Sarah and Angus, and but we'll hang out with friends and do this and that. But really on the weekends, like, we may hang out with a friend or two, but really like that's kind of our time,
Yeah.
just for each other. And we're really, really good about like saying this is our time.
Yeah.
Like we don't do anything but that. And so even for yourself, like anytime you've hung out with me, while you're in town, it's like, what was it? It was a Monday through a Friday,
Yeah. Very much so. Very much so.
But and most people don't even realize that unless, we verbalize it. We just happen to structure things that way. It's like, hey, when are you free next week? And it's like, well, Tuesday, Thursday, something like that. Most people don't realize that, like, hey, we're trying to relegate them like into, certain days, we just internally know, that.
And it's always kind of the expectation that, he might not necessarily be home every day for dinner, but I know it's because he's putting all the energy into trying to knock out everything in about 4.5 days, 5 days, so we can really keep the weekends to ourselves and kind of separate that. So
yeah, that's great. And like that's super insightful because it lets me know that you all are prioritizing your relationship, because that's actually the thing that drives everything else, right? Like you all being happy and whole as a married couple affects how everything happens in your businesses, right? Like that's super profound and powerful. And I hope when people listen to this and think or watch this, they'll keep that in the back of their mind. Like, okay, if I'm going to go into a relationship and I'm working with my spouse, like there needs to be boundaries. Because Angus, when you brought it up, I didn't even think about it until like literally you said it. I was like, wait, that is true. I think I've hung out with you on more Thursday nights than I've ever realized that I have. And then we have when we have guys nights, it will always be on Friday night. I just never really noticed that was the case. Like it just never clicked on my mind. Oh, he's trying to protect his weekends, right? Like but like people don't have to, like that's not something that you have to tell people, right? Like that's something that you all agreed on, right? And so therefore, because you all agreed on it, we have to respect that boundary that you created. And so I think that's really, really awesome and amazing just to see how you are navigating that and continuously like making that this is just a practice in our life. This is just how we operate. Like this is just what we do, right? I think that's really, really great. So moving on a little bit, you mentioned earlier that you all have just sold a business, which congratulations. I'm so excited for you all with that. And you're moving into a new chapter in some ways. Like, what are some of the things that you have learned in your relationship now that you are in these new spaces and trying to navigate this new space? Like, how has that been kind of a guide for you all as you all move into a new chapter? Obviously, your dynamic at Crossroads was very specific to Crossroads, right? Like there are just some things that you had to do because that was the nature of the business, right? But there are some things that you're navigating now with Sage and with
Better Day Farms.
Better Day. I was like, I know I said is it better something, but I was like, is it Better Farms?
Yeah.
but Better Day that are different.
Doesn't matter. It's Betterly. So.
right. But you're navigating something different from that space. How are you like making that transition? What is that looking like for you all as like the dynamic is different? How are you trying to, okay, this is a new space. So how do I listen to Sarah? Like what is it that I need to do in this space that didn't apply somewhere else?
I mean, I know for both of us, it's like, Crossroads was a end to a means, and so really we focused on that, on building it to really get to where we wanted to fulfill kind of our personal visions as far as career wise. And that's been, really big for us. It's like I know Sarah's vision for the most part. She knows my vision for the most part. And we really just push each other to get to that stage. And so like, on my end, my stuff is always been kind of growing the people that work for me and leadership development and stuff. And so we focus a lot on that at Crossroads. And even with the new company that we sold to, I'll be there consulting 15 hours a week, specifically just doing that during the week. And that's all that I'll be doing is just doing leadership development and leadership growth. And which is really phenomenal. And then, at the farm, that's what I get to do and do operations and logistics. And then real estate is just fun. And then for Sarah, she gets to, not be at Crossroads, and she can actually just be at the farm and be a biologist. And this is where I won't take her spot, but, where she can, really live out her dream and her vision. And I can live out my dream and my vision. And, we still have, the rest of this year to do the full transition, the merger and all that, but really kind of starting next year, kind of the world's our oyster, and we can, make with it what we want. So.
Yeah. And I mean, Crossroads really, I think, equipped us and let us make kind of mistakes and learn different skills that can be applied to really anything we do, which is really great. Him being able to use kind of his business management and growing a company all the way up to selling it. And for me, just leading and working with people and managing people. And I mean, we kind of, when we got Crossroads, it was going, but I mean, we definitely, the growing process for a company, it's similar. So just kind of having that to, those skills is very helpful.
Yeah, that's really good, Sarah. And just even seeing you all, and in the years that I've known you all, like your involvement with Crossroads and seeing the exponential growth in the last 5 years, like that's unbelievable. Like that takes a lot of sleepless nights, or I'm sleeping 2 hours because I got a deadline to meet, and I know I'm going to crash at some point, but I have to power through this a little bit because we got this thing to do. Or, hey, I need a cup of coffee. Could you run here? Because I cannot leave this meeting because I got a meeting after me. Like that, those things, those intangibles that you all have developed and grown is like super amazing. I think it's really awesome to see how that has played out in your businesses and what you all are doing now. And Sarah, it's just so great to see you get to do what you love to do. Like that's like awesome more than anything. Like that's just so great. Yeah, it's so great.
Definitely confusing first graduating college and starting to work as a receptionist at a mental health.
Yeah, right.
God, I don't know what I'm doing, but just to see where it's led me in 6 years with a farm that in the middle of Tulsa, Oklahoma.
Yeah.
As opposed to just working in an oil field or something like I would have if I just went with the first job that made sense. So
and something I'll comment on, not to go like super spiritual, but to get a little spiritual.
You can go a little spiritual for me, my guy.
I'll pull out Reverend Martin. But honestly, that's what it was. It's like, I started a marketing company. I don't even do marketing anymore. And, we basically joined Crossroads, and we wanted to start an environmental company. And we did all of these things that confused the crap out of, I think our parents still have no idea what the heck we do, and all of our friends and everybody was like, this makes no sense of why you're doing it, but we trusted God and we knew that this is what we were supposed to do.
Yeah.
And we just kept going into that abiding relationship and everything that made logical sense. And really focusing on like, hey, this is what we're supposed to do.
Yeah.
And now we're walking in the fruit of a lot of those decisions with,
a lot of sacrifices too.
Sacrifice for many years where we, we're still driving our full 2006 Toyota Corolla. Right?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And
I was there.
So, but
yeah. That's Angus, that's so good. And that's so helpful for people to understand. Like, even for you as individuals, but you together, the fact that you held to what you believed was possible for your lives is super encouraging. Because I think sometimes people underestimate seasons in their lives. They don't see how it may not make sense to them, right? Like it like you said, your parents, it didn't make sense what you all did, right? But those things I think were building blocks for what you all are doing now. And even in my own life, there's some things that I've done in my life where I'm like, this has absolutely nothing to do with the dreams and visions that I have for my life, and even the conversations we have had, right, about things that I want to do. And I think now in my head, I'm like, oh, I needed that experience because of this, or I needed the experience because of this, right? It'll all make sense in the end, but that means that like we're on the right path when we're consistently doing what we're supposed to be doing. And though it doesn't make sense, at the end of the day, we'll get to the place where we need to get to. And Angus, you made me think about something when you were talking about vision that I want you to share. And you said this to me so many times, but could you share, it's something that you've always talked about in relationships, how there are three visions. Could you share a little bit about that?
Oh man, in relationships, there's three visions, and I don't know what you're referencing.
So I remember you saying, and it may come back to you, but I remember you saying something to me the effect that I thought was super profound. You said that there's a vision that you have for yourself. Both of you have a specific vision, and then there's a vision for your relationship. Mm-hmm. And then you like explained it in this beautiful way. And I never forgot. I was like, sir, you teaching. That's really good. You know?
Yeah.
I don't know if you remember it.
Yeah, I think we were talking, I think it was me, you, and Kyle all were sitting around and talking. But, we were saying that, I think we were talking about that whenever you're looking for a spouse, a lot of times you have this specific vision and this specific checklist of like, this is how this person has to be in order for me to, be able to enact my vision out in my life. It's like, in order for me to fulfill this dream of, like on my end, growing individuals and growing people, well, I need somebody to come alongside me that's just going to be there, be growing people every single day with me. Well, honestly, that's not Sarah's vision. I mean, she wouldn't mind that, it's like, if it's a byproduct, it's like, great, but, for her, it's, caring about the environment and caring about, plants and people, and figuring out how to, better, foster the earth, and better, make sure that things are well taken care of that God created for us. And so it's like, that definitely will help some people grow. But on my end, my vision is all about that. And so initially you're thinking, what I need in a spouse is all of these checklists. Well, really what I think is that God has, this specific person that's on their own path, and then you're on your own path. And honestly, your two paths can look totally different on the outside, but it can work so well together as a couple, and it'll look very different on surface level. But me and Sarah's paths and trajectory of what our vision is for our individual lives are just fine, that they're individualized, because we also are united in this relationship goal, this relationship vision, to have a happy family, to have a great marriage, to have, phenomenal children, to have a happy cat and dog, like,
come on, phenomenal children and a happy cat and dog.
Where we have this vision for our relationship and how our marriage should be. And we're working on that every day, but we're also working on each of our own individual visions for our lives and where we know God has called us to be. Yeah. And that's even separate than what our business is called to do, And so it's just, there can be multiple visions, but a lot of people, whenever they're dating or they're looking at a marriage or they're looking at this, they'll say, oh, well, my spouse isn't like yours. She didn't do this. She didn't do that. So therefore I can't make my marriage work because, she didn't go to Bible college. Ooh. She didn't have this. Wow. She didn't do this. And now I can't make my marriage work. You're projecting all of this onto your spouse whenever you should be continually growing every single day to be a better person. Yeah. And that's going to make your marriage better.
Wow. Wow. Well, if you want to buy his e-course, go to Angus Martin. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. That's great. That is phenomenal. Like, that's great advice and just great insight and wisdom, because I think sometimes, and I know I struggle with this, and I think a lot of people probably deal with this. The idealized version of what you think is possible can become an idol.
Mm-hmm.
And you can start missing out on the possibilities of what could become, because you're too busy acting as if this is the only way it can happen, right? Like, this is the only, and we do that about life too. Like, I thought I was supposed to be a lawyer in order for me to go to the things that I wanted to get to. I look back now, I'm like, thank God I didn't go that route. I'd probably be miserable. But the point is that, the old saying, there's multiple ways to skin a cat, right? That old colloquialism is like super like on point, and that's really great.
Hi everybody, Lee here, and I want to give some information to you. Do you need someone to host an event or come and speak at your event? You can now book yours truly. Book me for your event by visiting www.leeascott.com. I am so excited to connect with you and do work with you. Much love, and let's get started.
A great perspective that you brought out with that about vision. I think that really leads into the next question really well. And I hope it didn't, you kind of already answered it in a sense, but just kind of talk about it a little bit more. And Sarah, like, you all have different interests, right? Like, obviously it's very, very clear that you all have different interests and you all have things that you just really like, right? How have you learned to enjoy each other's interests and really engage, even if you may not like it necessarily, but because your spouse likes it? How have you learned to enjoy or engage in each other's interests and likes?
Yeah, I mean, I think we've both been really good about kind of keeping it pretty equal, and it's a give and take, where like he really loves to eat out or go to see all the museums while we're on vacation, stuff like that.
My guy.
The outdoorsy, I'm okay with just, a grilled cheese over the campfire. I don't need no Michelin star, restaurants necessarily. So, I mean, we do a good job of like, we'll take some vacations and just camp, and then some we'll do a big city and eat at all the fun restaurants. And so, I mean, I've learned to enjoy museums and doing that, and really just seeing the other person happy and really enjoying themselves is enough, for me to be happy, even if it's not my thing.
Yeah, to give you a very tangible example, Lee. So I have a triathlon coach training for a half Ironman next year, and last night, in our second bedroom, I have my bike trainer set up. I'm doing an FTP test, and I'm like going super hard on the bike, and do you know who's there? Sarah with a spray water bottle.
Yes,
spraying me. So I wouldn't pass on the bike.
That's great.
Do you think that is her main interest in life?
No.
But does she support her husband who's trying to murder himself on the bicycle? Yes, she does.
Yes, that's fantastic. Oh my gosh, yes. But like, that's a prime example, and that's great. Like, that's super encouraging that like it is not above you to just be okay with what they do. Like, that's but you got people that get in relationships and that's not what they do. We're not going to talk about my relational past. Anyways, moving on. So my next question for you both is, like, obviously you are whole people, right? I mean, it's very evident. And being your friends, I have seen you all be very whole people. Like, you're not finding an identity in the fact that, I'm married to this person. How has your self-discovery or you understanding things about yourself influenced how you see each other and how you engage with each other? I know I'm asking a lot of deep questions.
I know for me, it's like the more like confident I can be in like who God has called me to be and what God has created me to be, the better that I can move towards that, move towards being like Christ. And, it kind of inversely with me growing and becoming more of who God has called me to be, because he didn't call me to be God. He didn't call me to be Lee Scott. He didn't call me to be anything else. He called me to be Angus Martin.
Yeah.
And the more that I can become Angus Martin, honestly, the more that I can become what God has told me to be, the more that I can be the Christ-like figure in our marriage, and I can be that person for Sarah. And then basically our marriage improves and it gets better because I'm actually living out this dream that God has called me to do and be. So.
Yeah, for me, I probably tend to struggle. I'm a 9 on the Enneagram, so I tend to be more passive and more okay just to kind of settle with where I'm at. Be like, life's good, I'm good, I've gotten where I need to be. But he's really good about pushing me to really grow into like what God has called me to be.
Yeah.
To not just settle for where I'm at, because I feel like we can go pretty far if we keep, looking to God first for where he wants us to go and really keep supporting each other and what we're called to do. So
because that's where, you look in the Bible at like Jesus, who was both the most humble man to ever exist and the most confident person was, and so it's like, how do we both have that mix of like being humbled that, our marriage still needs work. I still need work.
Yeah.
But I'm confident in saying we have a great marriage. I have a great life. How do we kind of do that juxtaposition of the two? That's the kind of constant struggle. So
yeah. That's very insightful. But and your point about introspection, I think as somebody who's single, who's not married, like I need to do that every single day, especially at this point in my life, right? Because I can only be as successful in a relationship as I am now, right? Like my emotional health is super important. And I think that you like listening to you all talk about how self-aware you are is encouraging, because I think in our culture, that is not something that's celebrated. Like we see a lot of, hey, I'm trying to outdo you, right? Like that even with people that are in relationships with each other, there's like, I'm trying to one up you. And that is not what health looks like, I think. And just listening to you all talk about that, you all are a great example of what health looks like. When two people know who they are and are able to say, I'm aware of this about myself, like that's helpful. And I think people will be encouraged by just your story and hearing you all just be so complete in knowing who you are in God, knowing who you are in your purpose, knowing who you are and what you want to do. Like that is something that obviously took a lot of time, but just being intentional. And I think that's so something to celebrate. And I love y'all. And so, it's super exciting for people to hear that and be inspired by that. So as we get towards the end, a lot of people watch this and will listen to this and they'll listen to your story and be like, well, that's their story. But obviously you didn't get here by accident, right? Like and I would want to hear from both of you, especially on this, but what is like one piece of advice you would give to people who are dating and they're not just dating because they just want to date, but like they're dating and they actually want to be married? Like, what is something that you would encourage them on or give them advice on?
I don't know. I feel bad for people who have to do dating apps, honestly. All my friends struggling right now who are single in the dating apps, to do that. So I feel grateful I didn't have to partake, because that's a whole new world of dating, I feel like. But But
Can we not crush my dreams? I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
I mean, Kyle, it worked for Kyle. I mean, people we
Kyle.
know.
Right. And we all have friends who it has worked for, right? Like,
So there's the hope,
Yes, there is hope.
there is.
Yeah, there's Camille Hope. There you go.
Right, literally. Literally.
But we're gonna
As you were saying, Sarah.
I don't know. I would say, I mean, it's good to have lists of things you want, but I mean, honestly, I just, Angus has been my best friend. So just finding your best
Cry.
And I mean, even if you're not necessarily like romantically interested, like if you find someone, it can grow into that for sure. And just really kind of following where you feel like God's leading, and if your dream ends up with them, I mean, it's great. So
yeah, there's, like, in my opinion, there's peace, and then there's artificial harmony, and
wow. Wow.
And it's knowing, like, when there's actually peace from God, in this relationship or this thing, or am I avoiding the conflict? I'm avoiding the issues. I'm just creating artificial harmony, And so I'll give credit where credit's due. That's like 5 dysfunctions of a team. One Sione, but but that's according to business how you're supposed to run. But honestly, in a relationship, you can have that exact same thing too.
Yes, you can.
Avoid conflict, and I'm going to avoid these red flags, in this relationship, because I would much rather have this artificial harmony in this relationship than actually address the real issues. And if you can avoid that, and you can actually address conflict, and your spouse, your significant other, whoever it is, they dialogue with you on the conflict, and you resolve it, or you reach amicable, conclusions with each other, really, I mean, you've got to keep her. Because that's where it is for me and Sarah. Like, we honestly don't argue that much, because we see here's a conflict that might arise, so let's go ahead and talk about this, let's go ahead and address it. And then we do that, because the worst thing that we could have would be artificial harmony in our marriage. So
Angus, that was great. And everything you both said was like great, because that it is hard dating, right? But it is the nature of the environment that we're in, right? And you have to learn how to navigate that. But I think what you both said is helpful for people to keep in the back of their mind, or actually keep at the front of their mind when they're approaching.
I mean, a lot of people, I think, they are looking for things wrong with the person, because there's so many options just everywhere. That's like, oh no, there'll definitely be someone better, because I didn't like how he coughed, and it's just listening to some people. I'm like, that's the reason you just completely shut him down, was because in your second sentence he didn't put a period at the end of it. Like, it's just kind of like some things they're making a big deal out of, when it's like some of the big stuff you should really be worried about. Some of the small stuff, like, you can, as long as you're communicating, like, I mean, you can get over it. So, well, most people can.
I that's good, Sarah, because I hope when people listen to this, they're not offended by that, because you're telling the truth. Because I think listen, we're in an environment now where, like you said, because there's so many options, people are to some degree being unrealistic. Like, it doesn't mean that you don't have preferences and standards, and you can't have things that you like, like, because we all do, right? But if it becomes more about how this person makes you look, or how this person benefits you, rather than how can you become the best person for that person, or just become best person for yourself so that you can attract the right person, then you might not need to be dating, right? Like you may need to just, go do something else from now, right? And so now it's easier said than done, right? Because we all unconsciously do those type of things. And I know that I'm navigating that now, right? Like I'm navigating, am I going to go on dating apps? Am I going to have conversations? If I do like something, do I pursue it? Like, or am I pursuing it for the right reason? You know what I'm saying? Like I contemplate those things in conversations with myself, right? So it is a challenging thing, an interesting thing. But I got two more questions, and again, thank you all for coming on and being a part of this and having a conversation with me. So my next question is, I kind of give backstory, but this question was posed to me, or the statement was posed to me by a woman who actually invested in me significantly about 3 or 4 years ago, when I worked for TTCU Federal Credit Union. She actually invested in my life and really helped me finish school. And she always told me to pay it forward. And so, in other words, how can I invest in somebody else or make somebody else's life better? So could you all talk about maybe a way in which you all as a couple are quote unquote paying it forward or investing into other people?
I mean, I think our biggest thing is just up in North Tulsa at our farm. We're definitely paying it forward there, where we have we're partnered with a nonprofit that we're on the board of called YouthWorks, and we take there's about 200 children right now at the summer camp program, and they actually get to learn all about agriculture, life skills, everything like that, because what we realize is it's a summer dream camp. And what happens a lot of times in North Tulsa is the kids between 2nd and 5th grade, they want to be an astronaut, a teacher, librarian, all of these like really cool things. But then once they get into high school, all of a sudden their dreams are gone, and now they don't know what they want to do. And in North Tulsa, only 1% of kids go to college or trade school, which is abysmal, And so really, if we can foster those dreams and foster the dreams of those children, and keep it going through, middle school into high school. And so that's where, Sarah is, we're building a teaching greenhouse for the kids up there next to the big greenhouse, so that we can actually have them hands-on doing skills, hopefully provide jobs for them. And really the goal is to make North Tulsa the trade capital of Oklahoma. And if we can do that, those are great high-paying jobs that the kids can have. And that's kind of our most tangible way right now. I mean, we still have a mental health center where we help thousands of patients a week, but definitely the North Tulsa projects, like those are the really exciting ones that we get to give back to the community. And actually our first few crops have actually gone right into North Tulsa.
Awesome.
Through Oasis projects and through the North Tulsa Dream Center, La Cosecha and such. And so our first about 10 crops so far have all been donated to the community. So it's been amazing.
Wow, that's awesome. That's so awesome. So my last question for you all, and I preemptively told you this question, and I ask it all the time. And I think it's a fun question, but why did I say it weird? But what song will you use to describe yourself and why? Sarah, you can go first.
Okay. I don't know if you've ever seen the movie The Secret Life of Walter Mitty. It's been out for like 10 years or something, but it's one of my favorites. And the whole soundtrack is really good. I love movie soundtracks. But there's the Pina Colada song I always go back to, because just the whole movie's about, this guy who has anxiety and he doesn't really get out and
coconut and pineapple. LaCroix.
Yeah, I don't know why I thought of that song.
2 on the nose, Sarah. 2 on the nose.
But yeah, it's about a guy who is just kind of doing the day-to-day stuff, and then he goes on these wild adventures and does all this stuff just on a whim, and that's who I aspire to be, basically. So
Hey.
All right. Mine is September by Earth, Wind, and Fire, mainly because it's a vibe, but but you know,
you were born in September. No,
you were born in September.
I was born in September, so you know.
But no, I mean, just thinking about the song, do you remember, the 31st night, so go through it. But honestly, I know this last 2 months, it's really been sitting down and remembering, kind of how far we've come.
Yeah.
How much we've done where, it's just been amazing. God's been good. And we've just come so far from, bouncing checks and not knowing where our next meal is going to come from, and having cars repossessed and stuff like that. That was on my end, not on her end, just to clarify, to where we are now. And now it's like it's just amazing thinking of how far we've come and how much we've done. And basically our best days are right ahead of us.
Oh, yeah.
So.
Oh, yeah. Well, James Angus Martin, I'm just playing. Angus and Sarah, thank you for coming on to Leading. I love you all so much, and it's been super, super exciting. And I hope people are inspired by your story, okay?
Yeah, thanks so much.
Thank you for watching and or listening to this week's episode of Leading with Lee. If you have not done it yet, subscribe on YouTube and all podcasting platforms. If you want to get more information and connect with me, visit me at www.leeascott.com or follow me on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Lee A. Scott II or Lee A. Scott II. So thank you for watching. Much love, and let's get started.